All right, hello and welcome everyone. This is the second episode of Legal Marketing Monthly Podcast, and we have our very first guest, Pramita Sen. She's the CEO and founder of WeYou Partners, and she's also the founder of WAL, which is an organization for senior women professionals in the legal industry. And we are very excited to have you. And we want to know more about you, your work, your organization, and what has your experience been in this industry for such a long time? You've been working in this space for over 15 years. And now that you have a niche in the legal space and you've been working with boutique law firms and even some of the big firms to help them create their brand, their strategy, and how to grow in the legal space. So we just want to know more about your experience. So let's start with the first question that we have. Can you introduce yourself and your experience in the legal industry?
Sure. Thanks, Pawan, for making this happen. Appreciate it. As you mentioned, Pramita, and I'm the founder of WeYou Partners, which is a boutique brand consulting firm. We work with law firms and lawyers on creating their brand and positioning in the market. Um, my second venture is Quattro Hive, which we launched in November 2024, so less than 6 months now. That's a media platform focusing on the four pillars of law, policy, technology, and innovation. And the third thing, which is not a business, but it's an initiative, it's a passion project of mine. It's Value, Women, Action, Law, and You. I started this a few years back. It's to bring together mid and senior level women lawyers in the industry, and not just restricted primarily in India, but not just restricted to India. And the idea is to bring them together for professional networking and growth. And it's a purely member driven platform.
How did you land up here, like in legal marketing space, and what was your education like? Were you a lawyer, or what was your relationship with the legal industry? How did like things unfold into starting your own firm? Did you already have this vision from a very long time that you want to do this, or you somehow just during your career realized, okay, this is something that I'm good at, and this is something I should do?
So I'm a marketer by education, by profession. Worked in different industries early on in my career, including education, sustainability, space, and even finance for that matter. Got my undergrad in the US, started working there, and then I moved to India in 2011. And it just happened by fluke. Like I was applying to places and I got a call from this law firm, which is a pretty well-known law firm in the industry right now, and they were looking to hire a business development manager, focusing on uh,
Expansion.
international space because they were expanding internationally. They were attending a lot of conferences and networking events, and they wanted someone with a background in that. And it sounded exciting. And when I got into it, it was just the start of something new that I hadn't ever expected to land into. It just I really love the space of law. It's very intellectually stimulating, and it just sort of married my passion for marketing and into an interesting sector of law. Um, while I continued my journey as a brand builder and a marketer in the legal industry, I realized that this is something that I do want to continue building on. When I started my journey, there were very few of us
Right.
in the industry who were doing this, and um, even fewer who came with a pure marketing background.
Right.
Um, so
Mostly, I
I've
think
seen the
the space is mostly, I think, is dominated by lawyers who are then handling legal BD as well. But like pure
correct.
marketeers, then, doing legal BD, I think you are one of the very few. who do it this way. But as you said that it started as a fluke, but I think it's working out great for you. You've done some amazing work, and we follow your work. But yeah, if we were to say that, how do you think like the scene is evolving? I say, uh,
Yeah.
earlier, the offline events, the conferences used to play such a big role and importance. Now we are seeing a digital shift slowly happening. Then we have the Bar Council guidelines in the backdrop. But if you were to explain the importance of offline networking first, and then we can deal on with the online networking. So, what do you think are like the best opportunities for a law firm if they want to do, offline networking? What could you suggest to them?
Sure. So I personally think there is no substitution for physical networking. There is a huge value, and especially in a service-based industry like the legal industry, where a lot of work flows based on the credibility that is attached to you. There is no substitution for physical networking. That being said, of course, the world has evolved, especially after the pandemic. We realized the
True.
value of the online platforms that's there. So it's about how you divide out your efforts and, for that matter, budgets and any other sort of form of resources, whether it's time or manpower resource, on physical networking versus online, offline networking versus online networking, right? Now, offline networking, of course, there are the conferences, networking platforms, different networking events that happen, but also there's a huge value to one meetings, and
Right.
not just in terms of a lot of the times we think that one-to-one meetings should only happen with prospective clients, but
Right.
we miss out on existing clients looking into the upselling of the services.
Right.
So if someone is working with your firm on IPR practice or disputes practice, is there a scope that you can speak to them about the other practices that you have in your
Right.
firm, whether it's corporate, taxation, so on and so forth? So, meeting with clients and Business 101 says that it's so much more profitable to ensure that you have returning business
Right.
versus investing the time, money, and resources
Getting
into
new business.
generating new business, right? So, dividing out that time and focus accordingly is going to be very important in
Right.
terms of how you network with your existing clients versus new business
Right.
development. When it comes to the online networking space, I personally think first you should use the online space to position yourself as a thought leader and the practice
Right.
leader that you are. Engage in knowledge management, a robust knowledge management process. Be regular, be consistent, and make sure that whatever you're posting, it has a value
Value added
added
to it.
to it, right? So it's not just for the sake of posting, just post out something that a motivational quote.
Right.
Sure, that can be filler from time to time, but whatever you're posting, even if you don't have to post something every single day, pick 2 to 3 days a week that you want to post, but make sure that you're posting quality stuff. And this is also fantastic in terms of how you develop your team, because team development then focuses on ensuring that they are gathering knowledge along the way
Right.
of what they are doing, and they are not just restricted to client work and forget the rest of the things. So it contributes to the continued learning education as well. Once you've positioned yourself as a thought leader and practice leader, then you focus on expanding your network on
Right.
the online space, and you know connect take those connections into a one-to-one interaction level, while
Right.
utilizing your knowledge management posts to catalyze that kind of interaction.
Right. So, let's say, we compare big firms versus something that is like a new firm starting out, very boutique and niche firm. It's like, let's say, partners at a big law firm, two or three of them coming together and trying to start a new law firm. Okay. Now, in terms of ROI, what does it look like? Like, of course, big law firms have big budgets, so they can spend on offline events like networking, conferences, legal event, they're sponsoring, and things of a lot of that sort, right? And they that incurs significant cost. And as per your experience, you must be aware that digital efforts somehow are on the lower side in terms of budget. Like as per my experience, I feel that digital efforts are lower on the lower side. So, of course, one-to-one networking is what you suggested for new prospects and existing clients. That is something that can do. They do not directly have any cost attached to it, but when it comes to these events, they have a significant cost attached to it. So how should that new firm prioritize, allocating their marketing budget? Should they focus on digital first, let's say having a website or, doing SEO so that they are able to rank and generate leads through that? And once they have some money flowing through the digital efforts and through the one-on-one marketing and trying to get work, then focus on the offline events and those big spending, marketing initiatives. How do you think the ROI works like or looks like for a firm that is just starting out?
I absolutely agree that you have to create your digital footprint first.
Right.
Create a robust profile, and from an aspirational perspective, that if you're doing phase one of what you want to do, and phase two, three, four is something that you have in the plans. That currently I'm working with primarily individual level clients, but I do want to get into working with SMEs followed
Corporates.
by MNCs, right? You need to build your profile from that aspirational perspective. Same thing goes for the knowledge management level of engagement, the network that you're building. It has to be on an aspirational. Branding is based on what you're currently doing and what your aspirations are 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years down the line.
Right.
So I completely agree with the thought that you have to build a solid digital footprint, but which adds value to what the profile
Right.
that you're trying to build. When it comes to the online networking, everybody thinks that only if I'm a speaker at a certain conference does it add value. No,
Right.
if you were to go into a conference, even as a
Attend it
registered
as well.
delegate,
Yeah.
and utilize that time and space, you do your homework
Meeting
first on who
people.
are the speakers that are coming in, setting up meetings on the sidelines of the conference, you will have a high ROI regardless whether you are spending that chunk of money sponsoring a conference and getting a speaker's slot. So, don't look at offline networking events as a high necessarily. Of course, it's higher than what you would spend online to begin with, but no, it does not have to be supremely high.
Like to start off, maybe you can go there as an attendee and not try to sponsor title or maybe be a speaker or things of the sort. Even if just you are attending, you get a good solid opportunity to network with other individuals and speakers who are attending the same conference, right?
Correct. And then identify different chambers of commerce, referral networking groups that you can become members of. Become an active member, spend that time to create those relationships, and then go to their specific networking events. And because you've built on those relationships by being an active member, you would have already created your value, and people would be looking forward to meeting with you when those offline events happen.
Exactly. Okay, so now we are stepping into a bit controversial line, something that has recently happened. A big debacle unfolded when DSK, made 5 ads on their firm values, and two of them had Bollywood actors. And somehow, we've seen mixed responses. Someone who's with a conservative traditional mindset about why lawyers should not advertise, and the BCI, the Bar Council of India itself, they're saying that the firms should refrain from such mass advertising nature of collateral being put out. And on the other hand, we have legal BD professionals, and we're slowly evolving into a big pool of professionals, and we're pushing for more evolving mindset in terms of the BCI should reconsider that the law is very old, the guideline is very old, and the legal marketing landscape or the legal landscape itself, the world has globalized a lot, and foreign law firms are getting an edge with MNCs and corporates abroad because they are not bound by such restrictions. But in India, we have these restrictions. So, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think what DSK did is, like thought provoking and like makes us reconsider that whether BCI needs to relook at its guidelines or maybe give us some relaxation in that manner, or maybe properly define what establishes as advertising and what is just pure organic branding.
I would rather go with that last part where we need actual clarity
Right.
of what constitutes as advertising.
Right.
And then we also need to understand that Indian legal industry is not just restricted to the high courts and the Supreme Court of primarily Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, right? There are trial courts and there are tier 2, tier 3
Tribunals as
cities,
well. Yeah.
right? And what what about the lawyers there? Do you think that they are going to derive a whole lot of value by getting by engaging on LinkedIn, by getting on Twitter? Do you think they have that level of opportunity to network at several conferences that law firms from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and other bigger cities are engaging in? Of course not. So we need to understand that we need to understand and create more distinctive level of what is allowed and what is not based on geography as well. If you would consider the entire country of India as one and standardize the rules across, then that's going
There's
to
no
be yeah, it's
The
not
rules need to
fair
be
because
considered to create a level playing field, basically. In
yeah.
fact, if we talk about, organic means that look organic on the face of it, but firms have tweaked it to the way, and there are agencies working in digital PR, wherein there is some kind of fee attached to the organic presence as well. Okay, so
And please tell me when all these elections are happening in the courts,
there's
or
blatant
for that
advertising.
matter, when law firms are sponsoring and going to the conferences, and there are insertions that are allowed in
Right,
the kits. Do you
right.
not provide details? So there are the candidates of the courts not putting up their advertisements. So really, a clarity is required.
Clarity
Thorough
is
clarity
required.
is required, and we need to look at the rules based on the uh, demography and the courts that you are looking at, the lawyers, the structure of the lawyers, where they are practicing, how they are practicing. There should be distinction according.
Right. All right, so as a lawyer, there are different platforms for you to put out your work or to promote yourself or just be a thought leader. If you have certain thoughts with certain legal ongoings, you provide your POV, your opinion about it, and you can go different ways about it. Maybe publish a blog on your own website or write a piece on LinkedIn. Or then there are other knowledge platforms like Mondak, wherein there is a certain big fee attached to it, but then it helps you establish yourself as a thought leader and that sort. So, in the buffet of all these platforms, what would you say is the most ideal or something that a legal professional should prioritize as a platform for building that thought leadership? Is it LinkedIn, Twitter, or what would you say?
I personally think first and foremost one should focus on organic platforms without investing any money. First, create that robust knowledge management plan of action, create a consistent networking strategy that you want to adapt and that works for you. Practice that for a quarter or two. Then look into investing money wherever it is that you're looking to invest, whether it's third party publications, any other digital platform, or tools that you want to put into use to enhance your whatever that it is that you're doing. So what are the organic platforms? First and foremost is creating your own knowledge and insights tab on your own website where you
Right.
catalog everything that you're writing, followed by utilize LinkedIn, which is still
Right.
considered to be the most the best networking platform, professional networking platform that's there. And if you were to take into consideration from legal industry perspective,
Right.
not saying that LinkedIn offers everything that one should be looking at, and it is getting diluted in the process to keep up with different social media platforms. But currently, that's the best option that we have. Twitter, if you were to look at it, in my opinion, Twitter is more on a personal engagement level, and it's more conversational versus pushing out the knowledge management articles and insights, etc. So if you have time on your hands and if you want to get into a conversation based engagement networking, then Twitter, surely use that. Please do not rely on somebody else to handle your Twitter profile, especially when it comes to the legal industry.
There can be repercussions for that. Yes.
Exactly.
Right. So, let's say that, okay, I am a law firm. I have a certain budget. I am spending money on different marketing initiatives. So, what should be the mechanism to track my ROI? Like, what should I consider as a win? Let's say if I'm spending a certain amount of money on a website or something like that, have you figured like a mechanism that you suggest to your clients as well that, okay, you should consider this as a win and this as an ROI? So, what would be the mechanism you would say for tracking ROI on marketing spends?
See, when it comes to brand building, which which is what we do, so there is distinction between branding and there is distinction between branding, marketing, and sales.
Right.
When it comes to the legal industry, what you're focusing on is branding and marketing, not
Right.
sales, because solicitation is
You
not
can't
allowed,
do. Right.
right? Uh, Marketing is very campaign oriented.
Right.
I always suggest that steer away from campaign oriented things because it's short term. You're
Right.
not looking at sustainable growth. So
Right.
we focus on building a brand. When you focus on building a brand, although it may on the face of it look intangible
Right.
results, if you look at it from the long term perspective, it gives you a lot of
Mostly.
results, right? It's basically like if you were to invest in mutual funds versus commodities right now,
Right. Usually.
what kind of results are you looking at, the gains that you're looking at uh, currently versus 5 years down the
Right.
line or 2 years down
Right.
the line and such, right? So depending on how you're looking at, the ROI gets calculated accordingly. Now if you are putting together a roundtable networking conference just for yourself, your clients, now how how was the engagement, how many showed up that day, what were the kind of profiles, and post the follow-ups, how have the discussions gone, and has there been conversions right after that. That is a marketing campaign that firms can engage in and calculate ROI accordingly.
Yeah.
When you are looking at what is the kind of engagement and return that is happening through your knowledge management process, engaging on LinkedIn, and you going and networking at these referral network groups or conferences, it has to be looked upon at a more sustainable basis. You wouldn't see a 6 month return. Nothing before 1 year can you actually see the uh, change that is happening. So, just to
Right.
give you an example, a client we started working with 4 years back, they were working at a pre-seed. They were, PVC
Right.
startup focused lawyers. They were working at a pre-seed level of
Right.
funding, and
Okay.
now they are working on Series C, D mergers and acquisitions
Okay.
of law firms. Have also a lot of their portfolio has changed from being founder focused to working with the investors directly. So that itself is a growth. So that is how we calculate on how your business has grown over your
So
firm's revenue has grown over time.
basically, what I can take away from your thought is that while the ROI are not instant in long-term brand building, but they are far more significant in the long term. So they're
Yeah,
not, you cannot like track it on a very instantaneous basis, but the fruits that it's going to bear in the long run far supersede short-lived campaigns, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
We really thank you for coming here, and we really thank you for sharing your deep industry expertise and insight. And if someone was to reach out to you, and if someone wants to work with you, what would you say is the best way to reach out or connect with you and learn more about your work?
Depending on which organization, whether it's WeYou Partners or Quattro Hive, is where you're looking to work with. See, always I'm very active on LinkedIn, so connect with me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, there if you just go on WeYou Partners website and Quattro Hive's website and look up in the contact us or connect with us sections, the email IDs are there. Just send across an email and we monitor those as well very close.
Sure. If we can just quickly, outline the kind of services that your organizations provide and who exactly are the target audience that you cater to. If you could just outline that, it could be really helpful.
Sure. So for WeYou Partners, we work with boutique specialized law firms. A large portfolio of our clients are former top tier law firm partners who have ventured out and started on their own. But besides that, as well, there are chamber practices, senior advocates, AORs, as well as smaller law firms, not necessarily with top tier backgrounds, who are building very robust practice for themselves that we work with. In terms of Quattro Hive, we are a media platform, so it's we're trying to bridge the gap between industry and law, policy, and regulatory. So we work across the sector. So from the startups perspective, there are founder focus and C-level executives in the industry space of technology and innovation. On the
Right.
legal side, we have law firm partners, GCs, policy compliance officers, so a vast portfolio.
All right. So I think that sums up this episode. It was a really insightful one, and I really thank you, Pramita. Thank you for taking our time for this. And let's see who is the next guest on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Pawan.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.